typically the fat just take care of itself through the protein sources?
Look, if you are an omnivore and you consume animal protein, there's a good chance a lot of fat will be contained in there. Now, again, you can add good quality fats, so olive oils, avocado oils, avocado, olives, omega-3s through, if you think of the SMASH acronym. Do you know that? Do you know the SMASH acronym?
No, I'm not sure if I do, actually.
Sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, herring. Best sources of omega-3s.
That's there's another phrase of that, actually, which is called hell on earth.
I love my omega-3s.
Actually, I like my sardines.
So I recommend these a lot. Fantastic sources of fats in terms of omega-3s. Fantastic source of protein. Include them. Do you want to swallow a pill every day or several pills to get your omega-3 intake, or can you start consuming one of those 5 types of oily fish in your daily consumption? And I say to people, like, try and eat fish once a day. And they're like, whoa, I can't eat fish once a day. And I'm like, well, you got 3 meals in the day. Like, why can't you? And then actually, if they start to build it into their habit, whether it's breakfast with some smoked salmon, some sardines, some tinned salmon, some smoked mackerel, some pickled herring. Okay, well, there was 5 options for 5 different things for breakfast. Maybe you could do that in lunch. You obviously don't want to be that co-worker who brings in tinned fish. I got told this by Mel, my partner. She's like, I went into a co-working space and she's like, I said, oh, I'm going to pack my lunch because that's what I do. But she's like, I packed some sardines and that, and she just took them out and she went, don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. So probably if you do work in an office space, breakfast or dinner at home with your smelly fish, but you can certainly bring it into your habit formation, your daily nutrition intake, eating more fish. I think it's a wonderful thing to include in your dietary intake. So that would be another habit that I would certainly, start to instill from a food perspective. Where do you get your omega-3s from? You can get a lot of it from fish if you stick to those 5 fish in the SMASH acronym.
How about beyond the athlete? And I guess to finish the athlete, with these foundational habits, if you really start to build in a really good platform of health, as training demands go up, is it a nice rule of thumb? I know it's not the bullseye, that as your training demands go up and you start hitting more intensity, more hours, basically then you're layering on top of these habits. So these habits never change. No. That's your foundation of eating. That's just good quality of eating. And then the throttle is really adding calories on top of it with probably a higher ratio of carbohydrates. Is that a nice rule of thumb for people?
Exactly, and that's exactly how we do it to keep it simple at Fuelin. So high to moderate protein. Your fat tends to look after itself. Additional fats in, as we discussed, as required. Base of good quality carbohydrates and fiber and whatnot, and then layering in. So it goes from a red meal, as we would describe it, lower carbohydrate, to a yellow meal, which you've layered in some carbohydrates on top of the vegetables.
On top of the vegetables.
That could be a piece of toast for breakfast. Okay, that's another, 2 pieces of toast going to give you, 30 grams of carbs. Great. Lunch. Cupped hand of, a cup of cooked brown rice. Lay it in. Dinner could be some quinoa, couscous, could be rice, it could be pasta, but it's just layering on top of your foundation. And that's the simple thing. It goes from a red meal to a yellow, and from a yellow to a green, which again, every athlete loves to see some green on their plan. It doesn't mean green is pasta only. It doesn't mean green is pizza only. You've got all these wonderful grains that you can choose from these days that, you walk into any supermarket and before, you only had rice or pasta. Now you've got couscous, quinoa, farro, amaranth. You've got all these different grains that you can explore, and they will provide you with great quality carbohydrates, lots of carbohydrates, fiber as required. Obviously, you can reduce fiber in and around heavy training sessions and races, but on a daily basis, taking in large amounts of volume is going to help you with gut health. And that's important. It's going to help you. Everyone's searching for this. the average person takes in less than 15 grams of fiber per day. The recommended amount, somewhere between 35 and 45 grams of fiber. How do you get that? Good quality food.
So I think if we extract all of it, and I'll go into coach mode and just hopefully as a listener, just remember this, which is I think the biggest mistake that I see is that athletes, particularly because we're focused on athletes right now, think about healthy eating. And then there is a light switch, almost like this, the other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon of now I'm training, it's just carbs, carbs, carbs. So it's pizzas, it's fries, it's potatoes, get the calories in. If you can just shift your relationship with that and think, no matter what is occurring, healthy eating, the bedrock, those vegetables you talked about, tons of fiber, appropriate proteins, and then you layer on top of this foundation, that's why it's called a foundation, the additional carbohydrates from the world of sources that there are. That's where you start to get the unlock. And this is the time to get the bedrock right.
Yep.
This is the time. You're not going to suddenly shift your eating habits when you're 6 weeks out of a race and you're thinking about this. I think this is the great time for habit development.
Yep. And I mean, what I really want to stress here as well, there is not this notion of clean eating versus dirty eating. And Jan and I have had many conversations around this, like what is clean eating? And he certainly is on that side of the spectrum that is very focused on clean eating.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I believe in good quality food. It doesn't mean you need to exclude other foods at the expense of calories, if calories are required. However, if we think back to the carbohydrate conversation around how much carbohydrates do a lot of athletes need, then it's similar to total calories for how much do a lot of athletes need as well in day-to-day setting. If you're doing 20 plus hours, probably even over 15 hours, yes, your caloric requirement's going to be much higher.
Considerable, yeah.
If you are pretty typical, like, I don't know, about 15 hours, a lot of training for me with a full-time job. I don't get anywhere near that these days. No. Like time starved, somewhere between 6 and 10 hours.
Exactly.
It is actually interesting, like your energy intake can be majority of the time accomplished with really great quality fruit, vegetables, good quality proteins, fats and whatnot. Now, in-session fueling, don't neglect it.
Exactly.
And yes, there is this separation, but there's also this
layering
realization that it's okay to eat gels, drink carbohydrate drinks, whatnot, high glycemic, processed, ultra processed carbohydrates in sessions that require it.
Exactly.
You can eat all the vegetables and fruits in the world, but if you then don't fuel those sessions correctly, you're going to come unstuck eventually. You'll last for a while, and then people might be going, oh, you look amazing, because maybe you are stripping down fat, but it will bite you in the bum eventually. And so fuel those sessions correctly based on the intensity of the duration. Fuel outside of that with total calories, your macronutrient breakdown like we've described, with those foundational sort of elements to it. And when you combine those, that's when you see results. And I think whether you're in off-season, pre-season, or season, it's just refocusing. It's just changing your focus to what you're trying to achieve. And that's, again, coming full circle in this conversation. It's like nutrition is so central to everything that you're trying to achieve. So don't neglect it just because you don't have a race. Just because you don't have a race does not mean nutrition is now not a focus. Yes, you can pull back. You don't need to track everything super hard, but at least have a structure, because that structure means that you don't have to think so much.
Exactly.
And it just allows you to get on with the fun stuff, training, sleeping well, and eating well.